On the congressional front, John Yarmuth is stepping down from his position as the holder of the office for Kentucky's 3rd District. Multiple people are in the running for that on the Democrat side. There are also many candidates on the Republican side for the seats, long held by Democrat John Yarmuth, but prior to held by Republican Ann Northup. So one of the Republicans running is joining me now. His name is Stuart Ray, longtime business guy here in town. Stuart, welcome.
Hello, Terry. How are you?
Good to have you on. Your local guy, what, Ballard High School?
Ballard High School, a loyal Bruin, and grew up here for the most part. And then my career was spent 30 years with Steel Technologies, company my father founded, and love Louisville, and I think we need a change.
And you still have a metals company called Peregrine Company, is that right?
I do.
Okay.
I run Peregrine Company, and it's a metals and trucking company, and so I stick to what I know, and that is economic development and building jobs.
That's what I want to ask you about. First off, a lot of people think that this seat belongs to a Democrat. This is a heavily blue area, the Louisville metro area. So why do you think you can leap over that and go back and capture that seat that Ann Northup, obviously a Republican, had it at one time, but why do you think the time's right for a Republican to get that seat?
Well, I don't think anybody couldn't look around and realize that Louisville in the 3rd District needs a significant change. So I think our leadership has, to a large degree, both locally and federally, failed us. And I do go back to the Ann Northup days, and I remember she held it for over a decade, so it was not a short stint when she was in Congress. And I feel like I can bring a fresh approach. I'm an outsider. I'm not a career politician, and I want to bring economic development. I'm tired of seeing a corporate headquarters leave Louisville about every 6 months. It's time to bring good jobs and good development here to Louisville.
What are the impediments for companies? You are a company owner. Why are companies taking a sniff and saying no thanks?
They should be, although we do have obviously higher tax rates, and a lot of that is on the city and on the state level. So those are things I can help influence but can't entirely control. But if you look at the cost of a company being out of the city of Louisville, or if you were in Chicago or you were in New York or you were in another high-end city, and I've seen some success here, that it's a much lower cost structure if you were to bring your business to Louisville, Kentucky. However, we just need some federal and some local encouragement and courting, and we should be able to bring good paying jobs here.
Then where's John Yarmuth falling short in this arena in terms of economic development, at least his voice?
Well, I believe if you ask around, there's been little to no drive or energy out of our congressman for many, many years. Obviously, he was very, very quiet under the Trump administration. He's had a little life breathed into him under the Biden administration, but he's obviously electing to step aside, and I just feel like it's time for a fresh approach. I'm a reasonably minded Republican. I'm not divisive. I want to bring the community together as opposed to just being partisan, maybe like I would refer to John as.
You think he's too progressive? I mean, the ideas that he puts forth?
Yeah, I do. And I don't think that that's a pro-business approach and a pro-community approach. And that creates a divisive community, and we've seen what this leadership, both locally and federally, has brought to this city for the last 10 years, and we need a change.
The liberals will say over and over again it's about equity, though. We've got to shine a light on people that have been marginalized, they haven't been taken care of. So what would you as a member of Congress be able to do in that realm?
Well, to a large degree, I would agree. I don't think we should leave anybody behind. One thing that motivated me, and I kind of jokingly, tongue-in-cheek say, Terry, I've got a lot of Democrats that are friends, even though I'm running on the Republican side. And I think we need some strong economic development that is equal within the community, including starting on the west side. And if we had some great business coming into the west side and we had some great paying jobs, I feel like those people, on the west side, or the people that feel marginalized, would feel better about their community. And so I want to embrace the community as a whole.
Yeah, you're talking about the 9th Street divide. That a lot of people say there's very little investment that's going in there. But, there is a TIF that, for instance, that's being proposed, and there's a lot of pushback against that. So there are various voices in our community that are saying they don't want help. They worry about gentrification. There are other issues that come into play.
Yeah, I get it. And I actually saw the TIF work. I was on the board at the KFC Yum Center, and I saw the community come together, both state and the city and Metro Council, and the TIF can work. And I am I'm not opposed to any revenue. We can't do everything with no incoming money, and I think TIFs are positive because they kind of go hand in hand. As businesses throughout the city are successful, they can help offset some of the costs through that.
All right, on a national level, obviously, if you're a member of Congress, it's you and 400 other of your some close
best
friends.
friends.
Best friends. What is the current Congress doing that you think is off the rails and wrong and needs to be turned around?
Well, you touched on it, and I think that there's a strong chance that there's going to be what we call a red wave. Though, like I said, I'm a Republican. I'm not a divider. But I do think that we have a strong possibility of a Republican-controlled House. And when that happens, Louisville and the 3rd District, they're going to have a freshman congressman either way, with Congressman Yarmuth stepping aside. I think we would be better served if our congressmen were within the majority in Washington than in the minority to help bring attention to and help be included in the positive energy, and I think the things that will pass and go forth with a Republican-controlled Congress and possibly Senate.
I hope you didn't just have a slip of the tongue and say cult, because that's what Nancy Pelosi is saying now. All right.
You know better than that, Terry.
Exactly. All right. Obviously, the talk about January 6th, I guess you've heard that Mitch McConnell is saying, yeah, it was a violent insurrection. So when the phrase came up, legitimate political discourse, January 6th, what is your takeaway from that being stated by the Republican National Committee?
I am not in favor of that terminology. The reality is, I'm all for protesting. Honestly, Terry, there's protests that go on in Washington, D.C. probably every day. A group is protesting. But when that turns to violence and when they storm our Capitol and they start breaking laws, I firmly believe they should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. So I am not a forgiver of the lawbreakers on January 6th. I'm sure there were people there that were protesting and walked away, but anybody that stormed that Capitol and jeopardized the public servants that were in there, both the people that were employed there and our Congress, they should be prosecuted.
As for law enforcement, I'm sure I can figure out where you stand on this issue of the phrase defund the police. What are we going to do to reinstill respect for law enforcement across America?
Well, I think we need to draw a lot of attention to that, and I'm obviously very pro law enforcement and pro the police. I've had family members that are police that were police members during the rioting, and I kind of think that we're a little turning the page on the defund the police. At least I think a large part of Louisville is, and a large part of the country. I think everybody realizes that society needs law enforcement, because who are you going to call when you're in trouble? And so I'm very pro law enforcement, and I would support that any way I can from a federal standpoint. But as you know, that's controlled by whoever's going to be our next mayor and this police chief.
Yeah, right. Stuart Ray, we're out of time this time. We'll talk again down the road. I want to let people know that your first name is spelled Stuart, because if they go to your website, it's stuartrayforcongress.com. I have that right?
Thank you, Terry. You do, and on Facebook as well. So I appreciate the time.
Okay, brother. Good to talk to you. Stuart Ray is running for Congress, the John Yarmuth seat that's open. He's on the Republican side of this. stuartrayforcongress.com.